And greetings, everyone. I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion, as you can tell from the title up there. Continuing my trek through the seasons and episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. Still in the home stretch here. This is going to be episode 13 of the final season. This is Sister-in-Law. This is another episode that was written by Tucker Cawley, and definitely at points this has his fingerprints all over it. And just a heads up, he is the writer of the last few episodes. He wrote the next one. Then an ultimate, and then the final one. So it's kind of fitting that Tucker, since he's been here more or less since the beginning, that he would be the one with us here at the end. Now, Sister-in-Law. This is one of those episodes that I remember the general premise of it, but I don't really remember much about the episode. Watching it again, maybe it's Tucker's writing in a combination with the actors, but I was a little pleasantly surprised by this. Now, this is not going to be no hidden gem episode, but it was funner than I remember it. And it is a highlight in a season where, other than a few episodes, I've been like, no wonder this is why I don't really go back and watch this season that much. Now, the episode begins, Ray's chilling on the couch, watching a game, waiting for Robert to come over. Amy comes in, and you can tell right away that Ray's a little uncomfortable. He's waiting for Robert still, but he's like, yeah, it's my sister-in-law, we'll let it go. Go to the scene after the credits. Or after the first commercial break, I should say. You can definitely tell Ray is not liking it. Robert gets in here and is like, hey, Robert, we've been waiting for you for an hour and a half. Based on Ray's reaction and the snippet of the conversation we saw before the commercial break, you can tell that Ray's not in the most comfortable place right now. And that is, he is not one for big conversations like Deborah and Amy are. So, Amy putting him into this situation, and it's to the point where he's finding her a little annoying. Now, the way he describes it is like she's like Lady Chatterley, which of course is a phrase we heard Frank used before. So, Raymond, your Baronisms are showing. Well, he tells that directly to Robert, which we all know Robert's not going to be happy about this. Thankfully, he waits and says it once Amy's out of the room, so it's not in front of her. But it's like, is it better to insult someone to their face or behind their back? Food for thought. Of course, Robert, is not going to be happy. He ends up leaving. Later that night, Robert and Amy having a little conversation in their room. And you can see, like we've seen so many times before, Ray's words are eating away at Robert. And they're making him look at things a little differently. When Amy comes into the room and is like talking about her day, showing stuff off, he snaps a little bit. He tries to play it off, and he brings up, in a roundabout way, what Ray had said. But of course this makes Amy mad because she goes in the direction of like, do you find me annoying? Which, given the snapping at her briefly, you can understand why she goes there. Now, one of the things that Amy had brought up when she was talking with Ray, and this was the initial point of contention that led to everything, is that the next night they were going to have a fondue night, all three Barone couples. As Amy was calling it, fondue date night! And that is the cadence she uses in the episode, which is so cute. Now, I don't know, I think she's calling it date night just to make it feel a little bit more special, because all three couples technically have had dinners already at this point multiple times, even before Robert and Amy were married, so it's nothing new. So I guess they gotta spice it up a little bit. The fondue alone would make it a little different because it's a specific type of dinner. One that Marie and Frank would probably recognize from their youthful days, when fondue was hip. But the fondue date night is a clincher. Now, of course, we skip ahead to the fondue date night. And they start having a conversation. Now, to lead ahead from this, when Robert left Ray was yelling at him and all that out the door, and Deborah came into it, and that's how she finds out about this whole conversation. Now, it looks like it's going to be a big old argument, but Amy, in her way, decides she's going to go apologize to Ray because she should have realized that he was uncomfortable with the whole situation. Yeah, yeah, you probably should have on that point, Amy. Still, you don't really owe him an apology for that. He could be uncomfortable with it, but there's a thing called use your words. He could have brought it up, be like, Amy, I get it. I'm not really a conversationalist when it comes to just stuff like this. Then again, we all know Ray is not the type of person to say something like that. We've seen it time and again. Of course, this starts a big whole argument amongst multiple Barones. It's mainly between the brothers and then their wives jumping in. Because Marie and Frank are mainly like background players in it. Like Frank doing his usual thing with the fondue is like, who knew salami and chocolate was a good combination? Leave it to Frank to find that out. I mean, it's like not a lot for them to do, but what they have there is funny. Does that one made me laugh? Doesn't even me repeating it. It just shows you how fun that was. Now, there's a lot of back and forth in this part of the episode. I don't have all the conversation pieces written down. I've only probably seen this episode twice. I wouldn't want to recite them all anyway. But it is what makes this part of the episode. And it ends with Amy storming into the kitchen after Ray says something that is very not kosher. And of course, Amy's reaction and the reaction of everyone else are like, oh crap. It's one of those things that, yeah, I realized it right when I said it, and Ray goes in there to follow. Those two make up, and they come to an understanding with one another. And part of their bonding is over Robert. Because Amy mentioned something about him keeping a bat or a tennis racket under the bed, and Ray gives the background lore with that because he teased him about the house being haunted. He went to go check on it, and while he was up in the attic, Ray got a broom and was like, and I guess while trying to run, Robert fell and his feet came through the ceiling. Which, even though it's a nice piece of lore, something like that you think would have been brought up by now with all the times that Frank and Marie have yelled at Robert. But no. I guess a forgotten piece of lore they decided to just pull out of somewhere right here. Now, Robert comes in and sees that these two are fine. He's trying to figure out why. It's like, you tell him something about me? And Robert outs a couple things. One, that he does a pedicure. Now, a little bit of umbrage to take here is that, and of course this is probably intentional, the whole little brother making fun of older brother thing. When Ray goes in the other room and tells Mom and Dad what he just found out about Robert, he says paints his nails. Sorry guys, but that's not a pedicure. A pedicure is getting your nails done. You don't necessarily need to have them painted. It's more like getting them cleaned and all that. But I guess definitely one of those jokes that hasn't aged as well as some of the other stuff. But like I said, I take it as just little brother making fun of big brother. Now we cut for the epilogue scene. A nice little way to end this and show that these two are now having a in-law friendly relationship, where they're all four are watching the game back at Ray and Deborah's house. It's the commercials, and those two are getting along fine. Now there's a callback in here to something Deborah says in the fight about him watching something involving a monkey. And then, of course, both Robert and Deborah storm out at different times. Robert's like, why don't you sleep with him already? And Deborah's like, I'm here too. It's like, just watching this, I'm like, I get this is supposed to be the humor thing, but it's like, these two, it's like, how the conversation was, you wanted these two to get along, and they're getting along, so it's like, damned if they do, damned if they don't. Now, one little moment I did kind of skip over in the whole fight between Amy and Ray is that when they're in the kitchen part, Amy goes there and is like, it's not that you don't like conversations, you just don't have anything to say. Good point. For the most part, like deeper conversations, Ray really doesn't seem to have a lot to say. But here's the thing. Some people just don't like constantly having quote-unquote deep conversations. Some like having them only in specific parts. Although, to be fair, with Ray, he seems the kind of person that even with a person he should be having deep conversations with, like his wife, he doesn't. But I chalk that up to, say it with me everybody, sitcom writing. because that seems to be the go-to thing for the patriarch character in a lot of sitcoms. Not all of them, but a lot. I mean, there's going to be exceptions, like I definitely would say, just from what I remember of the show, that Philip Banks will probably have deep conversations with his wife, more so in the first couple seasons. He did have a deep conversation on screen in the episode where she temporarily left him because he wanted to run for Superior Court judge. No, he wanted to run for office other than Superior Court judge. Judge, how long it's been since I watched the show. There's not really much else to say about this episode, other than if, like me, you're starting to feel the fatigue of the show by this point, this is definitely not one to skip. It's at least worth one watch. Now, the next episode on this list is one that got some love at the Emmys, and that was because Ray got nominated for lead actor for the comedy Emmys. That's, of course, going to be The Power of No. This one I primarily remember because of one shot with Ray in the most shimmering, satiny, silky-looking boxer briefs you can imagine. But, of course, that's going to be what I talk about next time. Till then, everybody.